I think it's time for us to think about the possibility of civil unrest around the elections. The election is about a week away, and if you haven't read a news report about the potential for civic unrest, then you haven't been looking. Those reports are all over the place. And so I think it would be really wise that even if you are not someone who would typically prep or be a prepper, that you still do a little bit of prep just in case you're in an area where there are some problems. And there are some things you can do that are really simple and really easy, and you'll just be that much more prepared in case something does happen. And they will also be great things to have around, even if you just live in an area where there's a weather problem, where your power is out, or if your water stops flowing. If you live in a place where there's a well, if you have no electricity, your well won't work. There's different things you can do just to be prepared no matter what happens. So I have a list of things. I've been a small time prepper for several years now. And I have a very short, easy list, like the 10 easiest things you can do to just get ready in case there's any kind of civic unrest or weather problem where you're at, where you might need to have a few things tucked away. So the first thing you really should have is cash. You should have cash on hand in small bills, like 1s, 5s, 10s, 20s. Don't just go get a bunch of hundreds, because if you have to pay for something in cash, like say your bank cards aren't working, credit cards aren't working, you can't get money out of the bank after whatever event happens, you just need to have cash so that you can pay for things, either at the stores or if you're buying something off of a neighbor, you're going to need cash in those small bills. And if they don't have a way to make change, then you at least want to have smaller bills so you're not losing a lot of money. I would say before the election day, go fill up your car with gas. Get a full tank. Fill up all your cars with gas. And if you have any way to store extra gas, I would store extra gas. Just in case, we don't know what's going to happen. But if you're in an area where you need to get away, you're going to need your tank to be full, and you may not be able to get gas. So you want to have gas in your car already, and maybe if you have some gallon tanks where you can sort of, have a little bit of extra gas, then that would be good for you too, in case you need to drive to another place. If you happen to be in an area that has gotten a little bit dangerous or violent, you may want to leave and go somewhere else. At least have enough gas that you can get out of town. The next thing I would do is before the election is I would make sure you have water on hand. And I'm talking about water for cooking, water for washing, water for drinking. You are going to need to have a little bit of extra water if you want to be prepared for anything that might happen. Water is life, right? We need water more than food. So if you don't have water on hand, then it'd be a good idea to get it now. I have 5-gallon tanks of water, and I have several of them that I ordered a long time ago. They're in my garage, filled up with water. All it takes is a little bit of these drops or bleach that you can add to the water, and boom, you've got water. So you need, in case for some reason you didn't have water, you need 1 gallon per day per person of water. So I'm a family of 4, so every day we need at least 4 gallons of water to take care of all of our needs. And that's really minimum. 2 gallons per person per day is better, but you need at least 4 gallons per day. So if you just want to get through a 2-week period, that's 14 days times 4 gallons. You do the math. You do kind of need a lot of water. That's basically your minimum amount that you'd want. After 2 weeks, you could decide if you're going to stay in your home or if you're going to go. But having 2 weeks worth of water at your home, just in case your plumbing for some reason isn't working, if somehow there's an attack, say basically a terrorist attack by our own people because of this election, it could mess up the water in your area. So you want to have water stored, because that's the most important thing to have stored. The next thing you want to do is have plenty of food in your pantry. Now this is any item that you might have like in your cupboard. Things that we have stocked are just dry things like cereals, crackers, even bread. It can last for a couple weeks if certain brands. Power bars, any kind of a protein bar, trail mix, lots of soups. Soups would be great. They're really easy meals that you could just cook really quickly if you can heat it up with on the stove, if your stove is still working. If it's not, if you have a camp stove, you could use that. But all the kind of items that are just in your pantry, not in your refrigerator, because if your power is out for some reason, you're not going to be wanting to get in and out of your refrigerator. You're going to want to leave your refrigerator closed as long as you can. So having items that are super simple to just, eat, like cereal, pour the milk, eat it, soup, heat it up, eat it. Those are the best things you can have on hand. The next thing is a first aid kit. Take a look at your first aid kit if you have one. If you haven't, make sure it's stocked up. You just want the basics, Neosporin, Band-Aids, maybe Advil, Tylenol, things like that. Anything you might normally have in a first aid kit. Any medicine that you may want to have on hand. And after the first aid kit, then that just leads directly into medicines. And these can be over-the-counter medicines, or they could be prescription medicines. Prescription medicines especially, because they might be hard to get if you can't get an appointment and you can't get in to see your doctor to get it filled. Get all those things filled now before next week. If you have any leftovers on your prescription, you could just get it filled. Then that would be great, just in case things get a little crazy. The other things are just over-the-counter things that you might use regularly for yourself or anyone in your family. Just make sure you have plenty of those on hand so that if you can't go to the store, then you're basically set, at least for a few weeks. The next thing to think about are your pet needs. We don't want to just think about ourselves and forget our pets. Our pets have needs. They have foods that they need. If you have cats, you might need litter for the litter box. If they have medicines, if they have a special diet, anything that they might need, you just want to get that taken care of before next week. And just, as you go to the store, you don't have to be crazy with this stuff. Just buy like an extra bag of food. Instead of buying one, you're going to buy two. Instead of buying two, you'll buy three. However prepped you want to be. Just buy a little extra every time you go to the store this week of any of these items. The next item is toilet paper. For me, I would not want to run out of toilet paper. I know you can live without it, but I wouldn't want to be without toilet paper. So make sure you have plenty of toilet paper. Hopefully you already have this in your stores because of COVID, and hopefully we're all a little bit more trained than we used to be before COVID. But toilet paper is one thing that I would not want to run out of. And we know the toilet paper is going to be like the first thing to go. If people start deciding they need to prep and stock up, they're going to be taking all the toilet paper. It's going to be gone. So make sure you have at least, I would say a few months of toilet paper if you can. But at least a few weeks, if nothing more than that. You may also be able to barter with toilet paper if people need things and you need things and you have toilet paper. Toilet paper can be, a good thing to have around. That takes me back to food, actually. Maybe I'll cut this part and put it over with food. But if you have things like flour and sugar and yeast, things like that you can make bread. Bread was also something that was really hard to come around with COVID. If there's anything cleared out on the shelves at the store that we have experienced before, it was bread. The bread was just gone. I would say definitely make sure you have the things you need so that you can make bread, because the bread just might be gone. The next thing you might think about doing is making a go bag. And there's a lot of ways you can make a go bag, but the idea with a go bag is you just want to have everything you might need for a 72-hour period. So that's, just several days. So you want a change of clothes, maybe something warm to wear, some pajamas. You want to have your medicines. You want to have some cash. You want to have anything you think you might need. Your cell phone, if you had a charger for your cell phone so that it wouldn't die while you're potentially out on the road, then that would be a good idea to have. So anything you think you need just to get by for that first few days, if you had to leave your house for some reason. If you're living in an area where there's a lot of violence happening and you don't feel safe in your house, you may want to get out of there and go stay with a friend somewhere else or a family member where you feel like it's safe. So that's a good time to have a go bag if you're in a hurry trying to get out of your house. The last thing to think about that's kind of a bigger one is the weather. If you live in a place where it's really cold and you have to hunker down in your house and for some reason the heat's not on because the electrical isn't working, you're going to be cold. And so you're going to need to have something to heat up your house, potentially if your normal heating doesn't work. So you can get a propane space heater, or you could get a generator to power parts of your house. Now you can plug that in to power your refrigerator and maybe power certain outlets in your house, or a certain room in your house, but you're typically not going to be able to power your entire house with a generator. So think about that. I mean, this is a larger purchase, but if you have ever thought about getting one, this would be a good time to do it. And having that backup power source is really important, because as soon as you don't have power, you'll be really wishing you had that generator, and it'll be very difficult to find one. People will have all gone to the stores, they'll all be buying up all the generators, especially if you live in a city, and you just won't be able to get one. Or if you do happen to find one, I don't even think you'll be able to find one if you're in a city, but it may be that you have to drive really far to get it. It's just really risky. I would say that you're not going to probably find one if you need it. The only time generators are around and stocked is when you don't need it, when nobody needs it. But if everybody suddenly needs a generator, they just don't have enough at the stores. They're not stocked like that. So that's something to really think about. It's a bigger one. It's not as easy. Some of these other things are easy. They're just sort of buying a little bit of extra of what you already have. So you have, extra Band-Aids, you have extra Neosporin, you have extra flour, you have extra bread, you have a little extra yeast, you have, some stores of water, things like that. They're a little bit more just have a little extra, right? But I know a generator is a bigger purchase, but you are going to be feeling very happy about that generator if you need it and you have it, rather than if you don't have it and you need it. Even if nothing happens around the election, say it's very calm and really nothing happens, all these things are things that you would use anyway. So you're just really going to have some extra stuff around the house. The water's probably the big one. You're probably not used to storing water, but storing water does take some space, and you have to have the right containers. You could just go buy those little, 2.5 gallon ones at the store, get several of them though. It is important if something does go on. And I know where I'm at, we live in an area where there's fires. Every year we worry about what fires are going to be coming through. And we have been evacuated before, and we've had friends evacuated before. We've had friends evacuated in their area, and they came and stayed with us in our area. So suddenly, and this air is so bad, you don't even want to go outside. You just want to keep everything closed up. So that's an issue we deal with in my area. So there's just times when you might want to hunker down. And I know in other parts of the country, there's bad weather too. They could have, snow, they can have hurricanes, they can have blizzards, they can have tornadoes. There's just different reasons that you might have a weather incident in your area that either knocks out the power or just makes it hard to leave the house. So it's good to be prepared. All these things that will work for potential civil unrest are also good things to have around if there's a weather incident. So nothing's going to go to waste. You will use all of these things. My biggest recommendation with what you buy though is don't buy items for prep that that you're storing that you wouldn't normally kind of eat anyway. Unless you're looking at some of those long-term storage type foods that are just really emergency foods. But as far as like the types of foods, like if you don't like canned tuna, don't go buy 20 cans of canned tuna. Like you're not going to want to eat it. I mean, maybe it's a good idea, but I don't know. Me personally, I think it's a better idea to find things that you already eat all the time and buy more of those, especially if they're things that are sort of prepared and easy to heat up, where maybe all you have to do is add some water. So those are my recommendations. If you want to get into more extensive prepping and do this for a longer period of time, then you might have a different list that you're going off. But this is really the list just to kind of get you started. It's the easy things you can really do right away. You could do it this week. You could have this done before the election, and then you would be, feeling pretty good if there was something going on in your area. You would be set at least for several weeks, and it's a good feeling to know that you can take care of your family, and if you have kids, you can take care of your kids, and if you have maybe some neighbors that need something, you could help them out. and maybe they can help out you. So spread the word. Tell your neighbors they should do this too. Tell your friends, tell your family members. Just get them thinking about it. It's just, all we're doing here is just buying a little extra stuff. I think it's worth thinking about, considering how polarized our country has become. And I think with this election in particular, I think no matter who wins, there's going to be some problems. There's going to be very upset people out there, and these very upset people may become violent. And it might be just kind of scary to go out for a little while. So at the very least, let's just be ready for that. And if we want to do more later, then maybe we'll talk about doing more later. So give me your ideas. Let me know in the comments below, like what things you think are the absolute must-haves in the next week before the elections. If you think that there's something that you just cannot live without, please list it below so we all have the benefit of hearing from you. That will really help us out. And good luck to all of you. And I hope it goes okay. I hope the election doesn't cause problems in your area. And I'll see you afterwards on the other side of this. All right, bye-bye.